Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarah Klein, and I'm the Executive Director of the Domestic Abuse Project. Thank you so much for joining me today. We've had lots of changes here, and I'm a new face to many of you. I want to share with you today what inspires me about our work and what also concerns me. And I look forward to getting to know each of you and what inspires and concerns you as I continue in this role. Many of you in the room today are Transformation Society members, and your 5-year gifts allow us to plan for and do our work. Thank you so much for being our partners. Most of you in this room have donated in many generous ways, and I'm incredibly grateful for the dedication of each of you to the mission of ending domestic abuse. Just like many of you, I am involved in DAP because of the history of abuse in my own family. Abuse spans 2 generations in my family, with my mother ending the cycle with our own nuclear family. It continues on with other family members. And growing up, I witnessed this abuse. It clearly has left a profound impact on me and has caused me to connect with this work here, where we break the cycles of violence with a holistic approach. When I told my mother that I was taking this role, she said she had wished that there was an organization like ours available as a resource to her own family. There wasn't a domestic abuse project for my grandmother, my mother, and her siblings to find help. And I can't keep from wondering how their lives would have been different if there had been. I know the cycle of violence wouldn't have just been broken for my mother, but for all members of my family. When I joined the team here, I first sat down with staff to gain a deeper understanding about the work that they do. I spoke with Barbara, one of our advocates, and learned about her own personal story of abuse in her family and how this has motivated her to work with survivors. Her story helps her connect to women because she knows what they are going through. They feel relief and hope for the future. Barbara has done this work for 17 years. Last year, Barbara, along with our other advocates, accompanied victims to court, helped them write safety plans, and referred them to places where they could sleep and eat as they fled their abuser. They did this for nearly 3,000 women escaping abuse. The first time I met Angie, our Director of Client Services, I was so inspired by her vision for the Domestic Abuse Project that would lead us to be a local community partner in working together to serve domestic abuse victims, survivors, and batterers, so that these individuals can get assistance without gaps or without barriers. She has witnessed the growing needs of the clients that we serve. Many of the men and women face many hardships that make it difficult for them to find stable housing and work. But her vision means strengthening our support for the men, women, and children who come to us for help. Part of our success is that we have incredible partnerships with the City of Minneapolis and Hennepin County. We have access to judges, police officers, and attorneys, many of whom are in the room today. They are working hard to ensure safety and protection in our homes. You are the front line that sees the devastation of domestic violence that it brings to families and how that spills out into the broader community. You bring those people in pain so that we can meet them on their healing journey. With our unique mix of innovative programming, community support, our therapists helped over 1,000 individuals heal from the impacts of domestic abuse last year. This is incredible. Because violence is not on the decline, our work continues to grow. That is what keeps me motivated to continue, and also what causes me great concern. Recently, Ebony, another one of our advocates, described a situation where she needed to talk privately with a woman in crisis. She struggled to find an empty office that wasn't being used to serve our other clients. So I gave up my space so that she could provide the support and privacy for this woman. Trauma-informed care means that no client needs to recount a traumatic experience in front of a room full of strangers. Studies have shown that the younger a child is, the more devastating the impact of trauma of domestic abuse can have on her life. Right now, our children's program has the capacity to serve 4 to 18-year-olds. If we are truly ending domestic abuse at its root, we need to start with our children at a much younger age. Angie has a vision and a plan that will allow us to work with these young children when we have the resources. Right now, it takes about $1,500 to work with just one child through their healing journey. We also want to provide different kinds of support to men, women, and children as they heal. And we can do this through services offered in clients' native language, therapy groups that integrate the cultural backgrounds of our clients, and helping clients find the housing, food, and work they need to find stability. Most of all, we want to shorten our waiting lists. Right now, we have roughly 120 individuals waiting for services. For the women's program, women struggling to make it through their day because of the trauma of abuse may have to wait up to 4 months for the help they need to heal. Who should we say no to? I struggle with this every single day, as well as our team. I've been amazed that our caring staff can do so much with limited resources, and I'm on a mission to change that. We must have the resources to effectively serve our clients. Here's a story. We recently started our fall children's group. The kids were eager to play and meet each other, but they also ravenously ate their dinner. We know some kids stashed away foods in different parts of the building to take back to their siblings or their families. We know that kids, as much as they want to, can't focus on healing when they're worried about where their next meal is coming from. So we provide meals and snacks every time they come to us. Yet our staff are still scrounging for the funds to provide these snacks and meals, and they spend extra unpaid time connecting these clients to important resources to meet their basic needs. I want to see us serve more people and have the space and resources to do so. I know you want this too. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here today. I know you want to make sure that when someone makes their way to us, we have adequate space and time to work with that father, daughter, mother, all the way through the process. We can't always say that today, and I know that we can get there together. As you listen to the powerful stories you're about to hear, I want to share with you that our funding gap for the year is $450,000. That sounds like a big number, but that amount of money will enable us to serve more clients like those you'll hear from today, Renee and Darren. It's a small price to pay for building families and communities marked by peace and love instead of abuse. In this journey of my first year at DAP, my eyes have been opened even wider than I could ever imagine to the incredible heart and soul of the work and our staff, and to the courage and tenacity of the people who walk through our doors. I have a big vision for where we can all go together, and I look forward to working with each of you to make sure that vision unfolds in a very powerful way. Thank you so much.
So living with my dad and my brother was very, very difficult.
My mom and my dad, they argued a lot.
I remember being afraid all the time.
The abuse was physical at times, and it certainly was emotional for a great deal of it.
My dad used to abuse us physically, sexually, emotionally, financially.
And we went in the room, and my mom was on the ground, and he was just beating her up. And he was like, "Go in your room," like yelling. And my mom was like, "Go in your room, like it's fine." I think at 2, that was a lot.
It was much easier to meet his needs or to keep him happy than it was to deal with the anger.
It was not a healthy environment to be in.
The way we look at abuse, especially here at DAP, is it's a pattern of behavior that exerts power and control and harms another human being.
I learned how to rationalize abnormal behavior in my mind because nothing growing up made sense.
If somebody has experienced a lot of trauma, they don't feel safe.
I just think I was scared because he was supposed to like protect us.
And I got very good at placating him and very good at keeping him happy to try to keep the people around me safe.
In an abusive relationship, there's a lot of fear, and fear is used as a main tool to control.
It was like walking on eggshells the whole time.
As a teenager, I started to rebel pretty heavily, and when I was 18, I became pregnant. And I met this man who really wanted to take care of us. Everything changed when we moved in together. Most people think of physical violence when they think of abuse, but abuse starts with little things, manipulations or control.
Fear can be as subtle as a look.
But as things progressed, the relationship changed, and he did start to become physically violent as well. My son was in the same situation or close to it that I had been in as a kid. That was the day that I told him he needed to leave.
My abuse wasn't the same as my dad and my brothers at all. Mine had to do with a lot of yelling and a lot of emotional abuse.
When he would yell, I was shocked and taken aback. It just didn't make any sense to me. Things were escalating, and I felt at that point that I needed to have some kind of intervention.
I was in disbelief when she called the police. I didn't understand why I was being arrested, because I wasn't being any different than I had normally been the whole time.
While he was in jail, I packed up my things, and we were separate for about 6 months.
So when people come to DAP, some of them, especially in the women's program, will come voluntarily, and then some of them will be mandated by probation officers or child protection or various other service providers.
When I came to DAP when I was 4, I just remember drawing a lot of pictures and playing. After I would draw it, they would ask me, oh, what is that? And I think being able to talk about it, like at my age, the way I remembered it and the way I felt it was something that was very healing for me.
My son was starting to act out. I see this as an impact of the abuse that he witnessed. I called DAP, and the woman said, you know, your son can do the children's program, but we won't let him unless you do the women's program too. And I was like, okay.
The basic thing that we start with is just kind of education. It's hard. Every pattern and every relationship looks different.
Well, things started to change almost immediately when I got involved with DAP.
As he was in the program with DAP, I wasn't sure that I was coming back. I was surprised by a lot of things that he said, and actually they made me very hopeful.
And so once people can start understanding what their pattern looks like, they start to gain insight and they can get their feet back on the ground again.
His attitude was, this isn't a punishment, this is an opportunity.
She started to see me be more relaxed. She saw me as far less confrontational.
I know in the women's program we have women who are still in the relationship, we have women who are in the process of leaving or considering leaving, and we have women who've left the relationship 8-9 years ago because they're still at different points in their healing process, and so they're kind of looking for different things when they come here.
I don't think I truly understood the gravity of the impact of the abuse I'd experienced as a kid until I came here. And the Domestic Abuse Project gave me the tools I needed to be able to heal.
I'm a psychology major, and I knew that I was gonna have to find an internship, and I definitely knew that DAP was the place for me. It's always held like a special place for me. My life wouldn't be the way it is if I wasn't here.
I think one of the most important things that have come out of this for my husband is that he's become so reflective and so aware of how his words impact other people.
I wanted a different part of me to come through. Not an angry person or not a violent person, but a gentle person. Kind of like going back to being that gentle kid again.
I left here with the world open to me. This place truly saved my life.
Good afternoon. My name is Darren McKinley, and I would like to share with you about my experience at Domestic Abuse Project. In the Men's Change Step program, the men's program is for men who have used abusive behavior in their intimate partner relationships and are looking for a way to make a change. And the Change Step program is specifically for men who have served in the military. I signed up for duty in the Army National Guard in 2001, and I was slated for boot camp on 9/11. The Change Step program is really important for veterans like me. In the military, you're trained to forget your feelings, tuck them away, shoot first, and ask questions later. We are trained to have a strike first mentality. We all share this experience as veterans in the military. And while this training isn't an excuse for our abusive behavior, it doesn't help either. We need to work through it together. And in the Change Step, there is an idea that you start with these guys and you end with these guys. These are my battle buddies. Because my probation was under Oklahoma law, I had to be in the program for 52 weeks. DAP was the only place in the Twin Cities that accommodated me and made it possible for me to meet my parole requirements. I think in the beginning, I thought this was going to be a waste of my time because I felt like I didn't do anything wrong. I felt like my situation didn't require me to be at Domestic Abuse Project, and after my first assignment, I called the self-control plan. I saw things that I did, and things were identified to me as abusive behaviors, but I was still in denial. Things started to change for me after another man in my group presented his story of abuse in graphic detail. During taking the responsibility assignment, he vividly described his incident of abuse in his relationship and owned the harm he had done. I was able to place myself in his shoes, and by identifying with his story, I really felt the weight of what I had done. His descriptions were difficult to hear, but his honesty drew me in, and I immediately felt committed to this process. I started to become more engaged because I noticed it took a lot of courage for him to tell his story, a level of courage I admired. I really began to put everything I had into telling my story as he did. That's when I was able to really take something out of the experience. And I tried to continue to set the tone set by this veteran because he helped me address my story. Honestly, I realized that a high standard was being set for us, and I wanted to meet that standard, and I wanted to be that honest as well. Sometimes guys, when they start the men's program, they are very skeptical. We don't necessarily want to be there, or most likely we're being ordered by probation. But the groups are special because we form a camaraderie that allows us to give honest feedback and hold each other accountable as if we were in our platoon or our battalion. We all did something that was harmful to people we loved in the community, and there is no denying that. But we also need a place where we can speak freely about our abusive behaviors and process them in a way that we can really overcome them. We need to take responsibility for ourselves and heal from the shame and the guilt now that we understand the harm and the pain that we have caused. DAP provides that space to accomplish all of this and much, much more. Domestic Abuse Project became a place where I really could learn how to take responsibility and break the cycle of violence in my life. I eventually liked coming to DAP. I would get there early, I would bring a bite to eat, and I would work on all my assignments. I looked forward to discussion every week because I could talk about what was working and what I still needed help with. I knew that I really wanted to be back with my kids and have a healthy co-parenting relationship with their mom. I had to change. After many weeks in the Change Step program, I've learned to stop my threatening and violent behavior, and I know how to identify these behaviors as abusive. The group sessions about self-control, nonviolence, and communication have been great because now I have learned how to implement these good practices and I can use them with my future partner. When I moved back to Minnesota, I didn't have a job. I was working temp jobs, getting laid off. I couldn't afford to pay for the services, but I needed them both for my probation requirement and because I wanted to change. At DAP, you can waive the fee if you can show you really can't afford it, and that was my situation. I'm grateful for all of you in this room today because your gifts make it possible to have this waiver system. You make it possible for men like me to receive the help that we need to end our abusive behavior. Today, I'm working on building back my relationship with my kid's mom. I use the self-control plan I created in my daily life, like when I'm at work dealing with coworkers or managing my stress. I use the self-control plan when I'm interacting with my kid's mom. I recognize trigger words and I stay away from negative thinking. I take timeouts when I feel myself getting frustrated or heated, and I constantly work on remaining positive because I want to avoid the risk of falling back into old habits. This is part of why I'm here today. I'm speaking to you. As part of ending the program, we discuss ways we will work toward ending domestic violence in the community or making up for some of the harm that we have caused. I want to be a domestic abuse project advocate and tell my friends and family about abusive behaviors and how to change them. I really want to speak to younger men who I come across who have never been told about domestic abuse. I want to speak to each of you about the cycle of violence and how we can work against it. I want to be the example and the standard to show how we can change to be healthy partners, parents, and members of the community. I want to be present in my kids' lives and be a positive influence. And I know that means that I have to continue to take responsibility for my actions and practice self-control in all parts of my life. I don't want my kids to grow up witnessing violence or thinking that abuse in relationships is normal or okay. I want to be who the mother of my kids thought I was for my girls. I want to teach my kids how they should be treated. I'm taking responsibility, and the cycle of violence stops with me. Thank you.
Oh, now that I'm choked up after that. Okay. Hi, folks. I had stopped breathing after 22 years in an abusive marriage. The trauma had manifested so deeply within my body that I often found myself holding my breath, shoulders up to my ears in a tense clench.